Hello again. This is week 5, lesson 2, and now we're going to look more closely at social institutions, which I mentioned in several lectures before, but immediately preceding this one, you should have watched a video about the agents of socialization, and this word was one of the concepts that's included in a definition of that term. We also talked about it early on in the semester when we discussed in chapter 1, functionalism and conflict theory, which exist on the macro scale, or they are points of view that take the macro scale, that you can examine different elements of society, and those different elements of society are these structural components called social institutions. Okay? Functionalism and conflict perspective have very different points of view about the role of social institutions in our daily lives, but they both look at society from the social institution level. So this information about social institutions, you can find some of it in chapter 1 if you want to go back and review that, but this lecture is predominantly part of chapter 4, because in chapter 4 we're going to look at what's called social structure, which is a framework of several different components of macro scale and micro scale parts of society. And these social institutions are the macro scale things. Pardon me, my cat wants to make a cameo here. He's inside because it is freezing out, but this is Pudgy. Pudgy won't look at the camera. He just wants to flip his tail. Okay, Pudgy, go on. But anyway, if you hear a meow, it's him. Social institutions is our topic right now. Look at the initial parts of chapter 4 to read about social structure in general and how social institutions fit in. Okay? So, macro scale is the point of view that we're looking at with social institutions. These are macro scale norms. They're macro scale patterns. You could even relate them to social facts if you want to go back to chapter 1 and review that term too. That would be helpful. But these are methods, norms, methods, processes that a society has in place to ensure that the entire social pattern, the entire population's needs are filled. Let me put Pudgy down. No, he's attacking my hand. Let me put him down because he's like shaking my camera here. Just a second. Okay, go on, Pudgy. He's attacking my hand. Okay, so no, Pudgy. Let me stop this for a second. I'll put him in another room. Okay, sorry for that little glitch. Pudgy was getting violent with me there for a second. Anyway, he's outside chasing the birds. I put bird seed out, and he's out there trying to stalk them for just a second. So I think he'll be fine in the 0 degrees until I finish telling you about this stuff. Okay, so social institutions, they are patterns, they are methods, they are a set of norms and expectations that exist on the macro scale in order for society to get the needs that the population has fulfilled. It's a mouthful, okay? But these are norms for society to continue into the future, all right? Now I've got my dog Junior coming into this room to see what the kerfuffle with Pudgy was. And there's Rosie who also wants to know. Sorry, I'm going to have to put all of them out. Just one second. Sorry for the interruption. Maybe we will have serenity now for the rest of our discussion of social institutions. Okay, so I've got some examples of social institutions on the board here. Family, education system, media, religion, government, economy, etc. Just like in our discussion of agents of socialization, I'm not giving you a comprehensive list here, just some to chew on, okay? And I want you to notice, I want you to compare between the agents of socialization and this list of social institutions. Look at the similarities, okay? Because I intentionally put some things up here that are going to have some crossover and that are going to have some similarities because I want you to see the connection between macro and micro. These are all macro, okay? And the agents of socialization included micro elements and macro elements in the same list, okay? But family, please note that I, Mrs. T, put a capital F on family here. That's just a distinction that I make for myself to keep it straight. Am I talking about a micro level family like your family unit or my family unit? Or am I talking about the norms that exist in society on the macro scale for what a family looks like in the USA, okay? Or in whatever culture we're studying. Now, that's a broad spectrum, right? I just said what family looks like in our society. There's a broad spectrum of that. You might think about, and watch my air quotes here, the traditional family, which is mommy, daddy, sister, brother, right? But that is really not the norm. We will have a marriage and family chapter toward the end of the semester, where we will look at that economic structure of the family, mommy, daddy, sister, brother, that economic structure of the family that has been, look at my air quotes, traditionally in place. However, society changes over time, so the norms and the patterns and the methods for ensuring that population will continue, in this case, that's what family does as a social institution. Family norms ensure that a population will continue over time. If people stopped having babies, like is happening in Japan and South Korea right now, bye-bye native society. Some other culture will take over the landmass that you used to call home if families stopped having children. And so family is a social institution that ensures that population continues, and since human babies can't take care of themselves for a long, long time, some of them are 35 before they leave the house. Anyway, the population is vitally dependent upon the fact that people want to have children and are willing to spend the money and time to rear those children. Rear is the proper word for human beings. We raise farm animals, we rear human beings. Anyway, so they want to spend the time, the money, the effort on having those children and rearing them so that they may become the next family doers in society, the next generation of people who produce more population for society. And please note, in sociology, we don't care whether you say mama or daddy or daddy or daddy or mama and mama as the family unit. We are not talking about that from a social institution level. And other societies that have polygamy as the norm on the macro scale might have daddy, mama, 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 or daddy, or mama, daddy, 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 depending upon what the multiple marriage format is as the norm of society in other locations. So family is a social institution. It's a method for ensuring that population in general will continue and that the young people in the population have the upbringing necessary to take their place as adults when their time comes. The education system is also worded this way so that you will be able to distinguish between school, which is a micro scale situation, and education system, which is a set of norms that overlaps all of things from daycare on up through your PhD program, is the education system. It's an organized way to transmit academic knowledge. Also, the media, as a macro scale social institution, is a method to get information out quickly to the population when information needs to be gotten out quickly to the population. For instance, just look at all the COVID-19 information that came to us through the media. All of the notifications about how to do this to avoid it, how to do this to quell the spread. Perhaps it's easier for us to understand now how media is a macro scale set of norms that fills the need for the population. Information dissemination. You must know that this is happening for the population to continue with public health, for instance. Religion. Please notice I do not have church written here. I have religion. And last semester, when I had a face-to-face class and I was talking about how religion is a social institution in our society, I had several students who are not religious practitioners themselves. They don't follow a religious cosmology. And that does not matter. That still does not mean that religion has to be removed from this list. Religion is a dominant part of society and social norms because whatever the dominant belief system is in the place where you live, that's where the laws, the system of laws, even the patterns for marriage that we talked about over here with family, those patterns come from the religious beliefs. And so in the USA, we have government holidays. For instance, Christmas is a government holiday, and other kinds of religious holidays are also part of government holidays. We have winter break from college, but it coincides with a major Christian and USA holiday at the same time. Our legal system is based on, sorry if you don't like the monument outside the Capitol, but it's based on the Ten Commandments, really. Even a system of slavery, which used to be part of the norms of the United States, used Christian reasons and references in the Bible to how a man and a wife and a child and a slave should interact according to each other. Just look it up. Lots of other societies have different religions, like in Saudi Arabia is Islam, and in Israel it's Judaism, and those religions are really dominant in the legal system and in the daily norms that people live throughout their lives. Okay. Government is one, economy is one. We're going to talk a lot about economy as a social structure or as an element of social structure when we get to chapter 7, especially when we look at social inequality, which, by the way, social inequality is a social institution also, because social inequality ensures that every job that is necessary to do to keep a society moving forward, that every job is done. Functionalists would say that's great. Social inequality means that some people are wealthy, some people are in the middle, some people are impoverished, and that's fine and okay for the needs of the population. Because if you have people who are poor enough, they will take jobs that nobody else wants, but are still vital for the health and continuation of society. A conflict theorist would say, yes, there are jobs that are vital, that are undesirable and vital, but in order to bring people's life experience to a more equitable station, we need to decrease the amount of money that we pay to brain surgeons, and we need to increase the amount of money that we pay to Taco Bell workers, for instance, because both of those things are vital for society. Both. Like, thank goodness for the AM Crunchwrap, right? So we need to pay equity into, closer together, essentially, from a conflict theory point of view of the economy so that social inequality shrinks according to the conflict perspective. Functionalists would say, hey, social inequality has to be there because not every work and not every job, not all the work in society has the same social value. So, okay, so social institutions, macro scale norms, methods that ensure the needs of a population get fulfilled. Here are some examples. We will be talking about these much more in depth throughout the semester, but please make sure that you make some links between the macro scale social institutions and the micro scale agents of socialization. And that would maybe be a great reaction paper to do, where you can compare those two and see if you can identify the nuances, the connections between macro scale and micro scale among these lists that we had as examples here. So text me with questions and I'll see you in our next lesson.